In this video, we'll be taking a look at Darth Vader for the Vintage Collection, more specifically the updated A New Hope version of him, which is VC 334 now. Hard to believe we're all the way up to that number, but here we are. And this is probably going to go down as the definitive A New Hope Vader. I'm always happy to add more Vaders to my collection. I'm hoping to go back and start adding more of the older ones into my collection as well, and I'm talking pre-TVC, Legacy Collection, Saga Collection, 30th Anniversary, you name it, a lot of those ones. Even the Saga line had a few good ones. And at some point I do hope to do a Darth Vader collection video, because I think I have enough now to warrant doing its own individual video at some point. So for this release here, there's not really a whole lot of difference between this one and then the Dark Times Vader, this one right here. I did review this one previously on the channel, I think about 2 years ago now. And essentially they're the same exact action figure. The only difference is the New Hope Vader has the red lenses, which is accurate. And then of course it has the robes that go over his armor on his torso there. And other than that, I think that's pretty much about it. Just a quick glance between the two. I think, yeah, they're pretty much about the same exact thing. But we will look at some of those differences in more detail here in a minute. One more thing I will show real quick is the previous New Hope Vader, VC 93. And you can automatically tell some of the differences between the two. I still really like this Vader a lot. It's definitely one of the best that Hasbro has ever produced. But between the two, I do think this newer one is probably going to go to the top as #1. And we shouldn't really have to have Vader revisited ever again for New Hope at this point. I really can't see any reason or anything that Hasbro could improve upon. Well, maybe one thing. I will point that out in a little bit. And I think I talked about it in the video for this Vader as well. But first, before we take a closer look at these action figures, I will look at the package here first. Of course, I did want to keep a carded sample. So I think, well, this is the same image that's used for the VC93. And of course, it did use the Star Wars logo, and then also VC09, but I think that one had the Empire Strikes Back logo instead. Or even maybe Revenge of the Jedi even had that. It's nice to finally add a carded Vader to the collection. It's something I've been wanting for a while now. Who can argue with this classic Kenner image of him? It's very nice. Then something else Hasbro noted that they were going to start doing is moving the warning label down here at the bottom instead of up here, because it took away from some of the card art, like Luke here with the lightsaber, and then it's an eyesore next to the Star Wars logo there. So appreciate that. It's not so bad down here. But one thing I will note, I did get the R2-D2, the updated one of him recently, and there's no warning label on the front at all. And then you look in the back, and then there's really no differences in the back there, but we'll talk about that in its own separate video. But it makes me wonder, if that's the case, what's the criteria? I guess it's because the R2-D2 really doesn't have any extra parts. It might be, yeah, it might be something with the coating for that. Then VC 334, Darth Vader, a little description about him. And that is a New Hope specific description. Image of the action figure there. And of course all the legal stuff that take up half the back of the card now. I will point out one more thing. The reason why I went ahead and opened this Vader instead of that one is because this one has the Ring of Death, which is very unfortunate. Gotten quite a few action figures with this recently. Well, it was an easy decision on my part. In fact, I'll move this a little closer. So I think the best feature about this Vader is the helmet sculpt. The proportions are excellent on it all the way around. You get some Vaders where maybe from the front it looks good, but then you look at it from the side and it doesn't look very good. Or certain angles it looks good, but others it doesn't. This one's spot on all around. It's definitely the best Vader head sculpt that Hasbro's ever done, or helmet sculpt. As you can see, he does have the red tinted lenses there, which is accurate for A New Hope. And it does have a little bit of silver dots around the breathing apparatus there. And a very shiny helmet as well, which is nice. I think Vader had a little bit more of a matte finish for his helmet in A New Hope though, but that's alright. As I mentioned, between the red lenses and then the robes here on his torso, those are about the main differences. Looks like on the control box there, it's just about the same. Don't really see any significant differences between the two there. And yeah, it just seems like it's a soft plastic they use for the robes instead of soft goods. And that's perfectly fine. Helps with the aesthetics of it. And it will allow you to actually rotate his waist around. That is one thing about like the VC09 and then some of the other Vaders throughout the years. The Black Series 3 3/4 inch ones as well. Is they would use soft goods for the inside of his robes there on the torso, and then if you rotate his waist enough, you probably end up ripping it. But thankfully that's not the case with these. One thing I wish that Hasbro would correct about this action figure, if there's one thing that I would want corrected with this for any future Vader, is in the cape here. I feel like it doesn't flow very well. It's a little bit better for this New Hope Vader, I think. It might just been the way it was packaged in the card there, and then it just helps with the flow of it. But this one here, I've never been able to really get his cape to sit properly on him, and then it doesn't look very good. So I just have it folded back because that's about the best I can do. I do wish they would go back and maybe help with the drape of it over his shoulders. Perhaps in the future they'll be able to do something about that. But it's a minor thing. It's not the end of the world. Of course, he has his belt here with the cod piece. And then it does have the unignited hilt that does attach to his belt. Had a little bit of trouble getting that hilt on the belt. And I think it's because the belt is a separate piece from the rest of him. And then it's a very soft plastic as well. So when you try and plug in the hilt, it doesn't seem to want to sit right. And for the rest of him, he has his bodysuit and his boots there. He stands pretty good on his own. And of course his soft goods skirt. And that has a pretty good flow to it. It's not too poofy and not too short. It's very nice. Then in terms of his articulation, it is same articulation as this one. It does have the, was it the barbell at the head, I would assume, or the ball hinge. I think it's the barbell. Yeah, probably the barbell. But then it does have, he does have the hinged shoulders, and then it does have the cut in the back here to allow for that extra flexibility. Yeah, you can kind of see in the back here with the cape. But he does have the hinge at the elbow, then the hinged wrist, and then what was that, jointed torso, I would assume. More of a swivel torso or swivel waist, I think. It's still pretty good regardless. And then of course the hinge tips there. Then the swivel thigh, then the hinge knees, and then the rocker ankles. Really can't get much better than that for Vader in terms of articulation. It's probably even more articulation than he needs because oftentimes Vader is very stiff anyway. And you can kind of capture that with this action figure, like what you can see here. In terms of accessories, it comes with the same exact accessories as the Dark Times Vader. The unignited hilt, then of course his standard lightsaber, which is a nice red blade. It does look like, yeah, there's a difference between the blade colors for these two. This one's a much deeper red, while this one's a much more lighter red, almost pinkish in a way. So that is another difference. The hilts, I think, are painted about the same colors. I don't really see any significant differences. The black looks a little shinier on this one than this one, I think, but something minor. And then, interesting for Hasbro to include is the two alternative hands. He has this one here, which is basically pointing, almost like a trigger finger. I guess if you want to give Vader a blaster pistol, you can do that, or an E11. And then he does have the one here that's a fist. You can see right there. And of course, the standard gripping poses for these two. Well, yeah, I think that's pretty much all I can tell you about this Vader. So about 3 differences between this one and the Dark Times Vader. And if you did want the Dark Times Vader as well, that one's still pretty easy to get hold of. Hasbro has been making sure there's a healthy supply of it in the market. And oftentimes you can find it at or below retail. But as of right now, this New Hope Vader is still in plentiful supply. As far as I know, no one's really found it at retail, at least in North America. So your best bet's probably to get online and find one. And I'll bring out the VC93 here real quick. Yeah, you see the differences in the helmet sculpts there. And of course with the robes. This looks like it's all molded together, while this, they did the robes as like a separate piece, and then it's just a thin layer of plastic. Control box is a little bit different. I think the buttons are slightly bigger on this one. And of course the suit is a little bit different. This cape is not accurate for this Vader. I did mention in my review that I got this action figure from Tungori, and that just happened to be the cape he was included. But accurately, a New Hope Vader does not have a chain for his cape. So would I recommend this Vader for your collection? I totally would. It's the definitive Vader. You really can't complain about it. And if you're looking for the best of the best, this is the one to get. Either this one or the Dark Times Vader. If the 3 differences I pointed out to you matter to you, that's your decision. But if you're not that particular, whichever one's easier to get a hold of, I can't really say one's better than the other. It's just a little bit different aesthetics between the two. Other than that, essentially the same exact action figure. Who knows if how the prices will go throughout the years. 5 years from now, it's going to be interesting to see the price differences between the two, if any, or if they'll both be wildly expensive. Who knows? Then who knows if we'll get any more Vaders down the road. I'm sure people are going to want a definitive Revenge of the Sith Vader, which we technically have from the Black Series, and quite frankly, if Hasbro would just repack that one over into TPC, I don't think a lot of people will be too upset by it, because that Vader is perfect for what it is, as long as they fix the neck. And then Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. I suppose you could say Return of the Jedi has the definitive Vader now with that Death Star 2 one. And then of course there's, yeah, I guess we're just left with Empire Strikes Back mostly. Well, like I said, always happy to add more Vaders to the collection, and this one definitely knocks it out of the park. And I'm happy to finally add them. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for plenty more reviews in the future. There will always be more to come. If you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. I always appreciate all your support. And check out some of the links in the description if you haven't done so already. As always, thanks for watching.